course students, Natural Language Processing. My name is Priyanka Gupta. I am working as Assistant Professor in Department of Computer Science and Engineering, Data Science Department at Institute of Aeronautical Engineering, Hyderabad. Students, I am going to talk about knowledge in speech and language processing. So I am going to cover about the linguistic science that will be used, that is phonetics and phonology, morphology, syntax, semantics and pragmatics, or what is discourse. So the basics of this I will discuss, and what is actually knowledge is whenever we are using speech and whenever we are using language. So knowledge in speech and language processing is nothing but a natural language processing understanding system must have knowledge, because that is actually using the document, that is actually using the language. Either it is spoken is recordings. So whenever it will have that understanding system have to dig out the knowledge out of that. Knowledge as a word, knowledge as a sentences, or knowledge as a recording. So that must have knowledge about what the words mean, how words combine to form sentences, and how the words meaning combine to form sentences meanings. So these three interpretation a natural language processing understanding system will have whenever it is going to just pre-process the sentences or paragraph. So first is word mean, second is that is going to form sentence, and third is what is the meaning of that particular sentence. So the different level of forms of knowledge required for natural language processing can be suppose consider a Unix WC program, that is word count program, which is used to count the total number of bytes, words and lines in the text file. So let's understand this. Then when used to count bytes and line, WC is an ordinary data processing application. It will do, it is the application is going to just calculate the number of bytes, words and lines, all the things, but it cannot interpret the grammar of that. It cannot interpret the sentence meaning, words meaning. So in that way, it is only will be used for doing the processing of the words or sentence, we can say lines, right? So it is also giving the total number of bytes also. So let's move further. However, when it is used to count the words in a file, it requires knowledge. In that system also, in word count system also, it needs knowledge to how to count the words, about what it means to be a word. Means what is going to make the particular line, a particular word, a correct word, and thus it is going to become a natural language processing system. It means actually that is going to count the words, but although counting the word, the WC program is going to understand what that word means. So of course the WC program is an extremely simple system with an extremely limited and improvised knowledge of language. So in a way that that is doing the language processing, but it is not going to understand. It is not going to fit on the natural language understanding system, right? It will have the limited use. It will have the knowledge, improvised knowledge, but it is not going to be just feed to the system, so the system, a machine can understand in a way what we are feeding to the system. Now, if more sophisticated language agents that came into the picture in 2001, when the movie Space Odyssey came, so for that this agent has been invented, HAL, that is actually requires much broader and deeper knowledge of language. Why? Because the different protagonists and characters, they were talking to each other in some language. So let's take some sentences from that movie, and we are going to just understand the things. So suppose one character was there, Dave Bowman. he was talking open the pod by doors HAL. So the person is telling to the this conversational agent, and then the conversational agent was telling, I am sorry Dave, I am afraid I cannot do that. Let's understand that Dave, the person, he actually wrote open the pod by bay doors. So he was instructing to the actually conversational agent, but the conversational agent could not understand his interpretation, and he has given the interpretation in the form of, I am sorry Dave, I am afraid I cannot do that. So in that sense, he has just gathered his knowledge and just interpreted as I cannot do that. Let's move further. So to get a feeling for the scope, what is scope can be there for that particular first sentence, and kind of knowledge that required in more sophisticated applications, consider some of the HAL, what HAL would need to know while it is going to just engage in the dialogue in the previous slide. So two dialogues we have seen. In that, what interpretation can be there from the HAL as a kind of feeling for the scope, and in the kind of knowledge that is going to gather by the HL system. Or we can say for a question answering system to answer one of the questions ever. So that one question, how it will be interpreted by the conversational agent, that will be totally depend on what are the algorithm we are applying and what the model we are going to just apply on that. Now, HCL must be able to recognize words from an audio signal and to generate an audio signal from a sequence of words. So, that text was given in the previous slide. That was the conversation between the Dave and HAL system. That was the conversational agent. Although it can be also it can be a audio file. So whenever the audio file plays and some actor or protagonist, he or she are just playing their role and they are interpreting something with using the spoken words. So just listening those spoken words, how the HCL, how the conversational agent is going to interpret that. So that should be actually able to interpret and recognize the words from that particular audio file, and then it is again going to give a audio signal from the sequence of words. So that will be the interpretation by the HCL system. Now I can say these type of task of speech recognition and speech synthesis that actually requires knowledge about phonetics and phonology. So what is actually phonetics? It is the actually it is a study of the different form of languages, different form of words, how it will be just formed, how the sentence will be formed, and how we are going to just pronounce those. So how the words will be pronounced in terms of sequences of sounds, and how each of these sounds is going to give us stylized acoustically. So those two things will be required whenever we are just processing the speech, whenever we are just whenever the machine is recognizing the speech, whenever we have to do the synthesis on that. So these two things will be required for that. Next, just take a note of that unlike the star strict commander data, if HCL is going to capable producing the contractions like I am, that has been given in the I and M, apostrophe M and can't. So these also interpretation can be done by the this HL system or not. So actually it will depend on the algorithm what has been applied on the HCL. Now, producing and recognizing these type of words and other variations of individual words, that is called as a recognizing that doors is plural. So, what are the form of that? What is the grammar in that? Particularly using as a word, either it is noun, either it is pronoun, either it is singular, plural, like that. So that requires actually knowledge about morphology. So whenever we need this type of interpretation, recognizing and pronouncing words variations, so that study of that particular field is called as a morphology. Morphology So the way the words is going to be break down into the different pieces, right? So different, we can say, letters. Now, that component parts that carry the meanings like singular versus plural. So that I have said, either it will be interpreted as noun pronoun, either it will be interpreted as singular plural. So it depends on whenever we are going to break that, uh, we can say variations from that, and we are going to take the, we can say, root word from that, then it will be going to just have the component parts that is going to make it singular as well as plural, right? Moving beyond individual words, that HCL conversational agent must use structural knowledge. So the structural knowledge comes in the form of grammar to properly string together the words that is going to constitute its response in a way. So that will be the another type of interpretation. Whenever the individual words will be used, HL is going to use the structural knowledge, that is structural, we can say, what are the word stress is there, what is the structural morphology is there, that is going to use by the HL system. For example, HCL must know that the following sequence of word will not make sense to Dev. So the two sentences we have taken in the earlier slides. So that was the conversation between the HCL and Dev. So they are actually HCL system that must know about the following sequence of words. That is, I am, I do, sorry, that, afraid, Dev, I am, cannot. So that this sentence actually have not giving the precise meaning out of that, but although the sequence of word will be just understood by the HCL conversational system, like wow, will that is not going to make any sense to Dave. So despite the fact that it contains the same set of word as the original, but also it is not going to interpret as a useful sentence out of that. Means the Dave, in that earlier sentence it was there that Dev has given some instruction to open the bay door, but the HL machine said, sorry, I cannot do. But here in this sentence, I am, I do, sorry, that, afraid, Dev, I cannot, I am, I cannot. So this is actually incomplete sentence. So that is going to make confusion, that is going to make worse sentence out of that. So that there is no interpretation out of that, so that the HCL conversational system can actually interpret, actually sense of can sense out of the this sentence what is the knowledge it can gain. So the knowledge needed to order and group the words comes under the heading of sentence, heading of syntax. So the syntax can be proper. Syntax should be proper. If this is not a proper syntax, this is not a proper syntax of making a proper sentence, so that it will be not structured as a grammar and not structured whenever we are using the other component words in that. So now consider a question answering system dealing with the following question. Suppose a sentence we have taken. The sentence is, how much Chinese silk was exported to Western Europe by the end of 18th century. So this is the interpretation. The system is asking how much Chinese silk was exported whenever the Europe came into the picture by the end of 18th century. So how much silk was exported? So to answer this question, we need to know something about lexical semantic. So one other type of structure came here. What is that actually? That is the meaning of all the words. So here, export a silk. So that we need to understand, the machine need to understand what is the meaning of all the word together, what it is going to make. As well as we can say compositional semantics, what exactly constitutes a make Western Europe as opposed to Eastern as well as Southern Europe. So what does and mean when combined with the 18th century? So this is this is how all the interpretation will go on. Means whenever the connecting words are going to be just combined, what it is going to make a sense, and what it is going to give the meaning out of that when it is combining with the different words together. So the meaning of all the words we have to understand here, that is a lexical semantics. Also, we need to know something about the relationship of the words. So that is called as a syntactic structure. So that is another type of structure. Out of that, for example, we need to know that by the end of this 18th century is a temporal endpoint and not a description of the agent, as the byphrase is in the following sentence. So let's see a sentence, then we will come into this slide again. So the sentence is, how much Chinese silk was exported to Western Europe by Southern merchants. So that is another type of sentence. Whatever sentence was earlier written, that is totally different. It was asking the Southern, how much the Western Europe actually compose, how much it export the silk out of 18th century. But this sentence is just comparing with the Southern regions. Okay, so the machine need to understand that is actually byphrase meaning, that is going to just change with the one word or two word together, and that is going to give the description out of that. Means suppose it has written, but it is going to make a syntactic structure, lexical semantics, and syllables out of that. But out also that is a temporary endpoint, and it will be just connecting to the other sentences also. So out means that HEL system is needed to understand the connecting sentence, connecting answer from the other sentence also. Now we also need to know about the kind of knowledge that let HEL determine about the Dev utterance. So utterance is nothing but the request for the action. Means the word we have seen that was written as a I am, cannot. So these are called as utterance. We can say here if there is oh. So these kind of words is nothing but the utterance by the some customer agents. Here we are just talking about the Dave is a character. So character is just if it is just speaking in the form of some conversation. So he is having also utterance in that. So at HEL conversational system should determine the Dave utterance is a request for action. So that the machine should interpret the right word for that, that can be replaced by these utterances and opposed to a simple statement about the word, this question about the door. So as in the following variations in his original statement. So let's see the some sentences about what is the conversation they have done. So first question was, that was the request, HEL open the pod bay door. So that was a request from the Dave. Next is the statement, HEL the pod bay door is open, right? And the other information question can be made out of this particular line. HEL then comma, is the pod bay door open? So this is actually question here, right? That is asking the question if the pod bay is open or not. So that is an informational question. If the statement we need to write just the somebody is saying and we need to just write nothing, we have to interpret, that can be HEL the pod bay door is open. So just a instruction. Then coming to the request, somebody Dave is asking HEL open the bay door. So he is just giving the instruction to the HEL conversational system, and then the HEL conversational system has to interpret this relative sentence, and the system has to give some answer out of that. So that is a kind of knowledge that will be just converted into the kind of action by the simple sentence interpretations in the form of question and in the form of answer giving by the HEL system. right? So that's how the knowledge will be interpreted in the different systems. So that is actually why it is required, students, this kind of things I am saying to you, this kind of interpretation can be there in the different applications, right? So here the with the use of this HAL conversation system, I am just going just telling you about the interpretation, different interpretation, what can be there, and how to just remove those and implement the right sentence out of that, right interpretations out of that. Next, I can say, despite its bad behavior, it's called as a bad behavior. So HAL knows enough to be polite to Dave. So it means the enough interpretations can be there so that the system, the machine conversational system can understand and it can interpret in the right manner, so that the what is the answer the machine has to give, it should be polite and in the manner. So it could be, for example, have simply replied no or no. So out of the question, the machine can also write simply no, but that is not correct. In a way, the machine has to give the proper interpretation out of that with the full word. So the machine is going to write no, I would not open the door. That is a right interpretation, and the polite interpretation in the form of answer. So that is needed actually whenever we are just giving the sense to the machine, and that is going to be interpreted in a way the human does, we does. So that instead this first is established embellishes its response with the phrase I am sorry, the slang, and I am afraid. So that utterance is there, and then only indirectly signals its refusal by saying I cannot, rather than more direct I would not. So would not will be more suitable for this. Why? Because I cannot means it is going to this word is going to interpret like forcefully he cannot do, means somebody is going to give pressure and I cannot do. But if the machine is going to just interpret it as a I would not, so it will be more right word for that particular interpretation. Why? Because this is more truthful, that is direct. So likewise the interpretation should be there in the form of answer. This knowledge about the kind of actions that speakers intend by their use of sentences is pragmatic knowledge, pragmatic or dialogue knowledge. So this kind of interpretation, whenever the action has to be taken, means the actionable answer should be given by the HAL machine. So that would be actually the pragmatic structure, pragmatic knowledge out of that. So that will be carried out by the HAL system. So here actually today we are talking about the HAL system. So I will again and again just going to tell that is going to interpret by the HAL system. So let's take another kind of pragmatic discourse knowledge that is required to answer the question. Let's see two sentences. First sentence is how many states were in the United States that year, and second question is what year is that year, right? So to interpret words like that year, a question answering system that is going to need to examine these two questions. In that earlier question that were asked, in this case the previous question talked about the year that Lincoln was born, right? So in this way the right interpretation, what can be answer out of that, so that is going to be applied here in the form of pragmatic and discourse knowledge. Here actually discourse is something different, pragmatic is something different, right? So discourse is whenever the person is going to tell, and that is not that is an incomplete sentence, and how the machine has to give the answer to just complete that particular sentence, right? And pragmatic we have already seen that is going to interpret in a kind of right with a we can say polite answer. Thus, this kind of we can say co-reference resolution, making use of knowledge about how words like that are pronounced like that, right? We have talked about today that how the knowledge that can be interpreted by the machine whenever we are using any conversational system. Here we have talked about that. So how the knowledge will be interpreted in the right form with the proper structure or proper grammar. So that is how the resolution going to make us a knowledge about the how words like that and how it is going to pronounce like that. She is going to refer part of the discourse. So the task is by doing the HL system conversation, that is going to make the knowledge out of that, and how the words are going to make a sentence proper in a proper way with the grammatical structure, and also it is how it is going to be just pronounced. Also, if the sentence is incomplete, if it is having the utterance out of that, any incomplete words that will see that will be just going to show us it is incomplete, but that is a complete word. So in that case, that we have to the system has to actually just remove the part of the discourse, and that it has to just interpret in the right amount of words and sentences. Now let's come into the phonetics and phonology. What is that? Just introduction of that. So phonetics is the study of language at the level of sounds. Means whenever the person is going to speak in the spoken language, so the study of how the sounds will going to be just sound. So that is a study of language, while the phonology is the study of combination of sounds into organized units of speech. So the formation of syllables and larger units. Phonology is nothing but how it is going to just give the acoustic of the out of that. Means how the sounds is going to make the combinations of different combinational units of different speeches, different words. So that is going to give us syllable of formation, right? And other type of units. Phonetic and phonological knowledge are essential for the speech-based systems. So today, actually, we are talking about the speech language system. So here, how the knowledge will be interpreted and what is the basics of linguistic science. This is basically the basics of linguistic science. In that, phonetics and phonology we have to understand. So that is actually essential part, and they are going to deal with the how words are related to the sounds, and how they are going. The system is going to be just machine is going to be realize those. So this is the practical we can say knowledge the machine has to just interpret. In the other words, if I'll say, phonetics is the study of the production and perception of speech, words, and sounds, and phonology is concerning about the study of the more complex and abstract sound patterns and structures. In that, the syllables, the intonations, the word stress, these type of things will come. So these are nothing but the complex patterns of the structure of the particular sentence. So likewise, that these two fields will come whenever we are talking about the speech-based systems. Phonetics is concerned about the physical properties of sounds in languages. So that is a physical property. It is not focused on all the sounds produced by the human, right? So that is actually just related to the language, spoken language has to be interpreted by the machine. Nothing like all the sounds the person is just making, like sneezing, coughing. So that will not be just taken. That is not a physical property of the language, but only on those with the linguistic relevance. That I said, the linguistic structure of the one sentence, whatever the person is just speaking in their languages, that will be considered as a phonetics, right? Now it will be divided into the three main subfields. That first field is articulatory phonetics. So this type of phonetics will be just focused on the way that the linguistic sounds will be produced. How it is going to be just produced? So that is called as a articulatory phonetics. Right? So other kind of phonetics is acoustic phonetics. What does it mean? It is actually focuses on the way that these type of sounds propagate through the air. So how it is going to just propagate from the one place to another place. So that is a way the phonetics is going to be travel in the air. Third type of phonetics is perceptual phonetics. So that is actually going to be just focused on the way that sounds are going to be perceived by the auditory system. Means this whatever sounds will be made by the human, that is how the whatever the machine is going to just interpret, what it is going to just sense. So that is perceived by the auditory system. That is a perceptual phonetics way. Perception. So that machine has to make the perception out of the sounds. This type of series is mainly focused on the articulatory aspects of linguistic sounds. So mostly of all type of speech will be just based on the articulatory type of phonetics only. Now, all type of language having a repertoire of the vowel and consonant. So the actually the words will be made of the vowel and consonants, right? So although when we are going to be just read what is the syllable structure of that particular word or sentence, so that is going to just have this kind of interpretations, right? So both these type of groups of sounds that have an internal complexity, that articulatory phonetics just going to aim for that. So at the describing the most adequate way. So that is a way that is going to be just interpreted by the group of these group of sounds that will be just interpreted in the form of vowel, either in the form of consonants, right? So now just have a look on the phonetics and the classical of classification of sounds. So first, what is the main difference between the vowel and consonants? So we have talked about vowel and consonant, that is the syllable structure. Now from the articulatory point of view, when I will say both vowel and consonants are produced through the emission of air from the lungs. So whenever a person is talking, with the help of the air and in the from the lungs, it is going to be produced by the some articulatory point. So that while in the articulatory consonant, the air will be abstracted to a variable degree by atomic parts. So that will be just moved by the mouth, teeth, etc. So whenever we something we are just talking and just we are using the mouth and teeth, and that words are just going to be just we can say propagate with the air. So that is called as a consonant, articulatory consonant. When vowels don't exhibit this type of abstraction, why it is actually going to be just travel propagate with the freely. So air flows freely and the variability of vowels is influenced by the other factors. So not these factors, that is not will depend on the mouth and teeth. Other type of factors will depend whenever the vowels will be just have to be just sound by the just whenever people talk. Now let's have a summary out of that whatever we have talked today. So to summarize, the knowledge of language we have needed to engage in complex behavior, complex understanding of the language. So it can be separated into the six distinct categories. So six distinct categories. So six are, the first is phonetics and phonology. So we have discussed about that. That is a study of linguistic sounds, right? That is a study of how the person is going to be sound whenever he is speaking to just speaking to other person, saying giving some instructions. So that is going to make some sound, and what is that actually sound means for, right? Means of. Second is morphology. So second category, in that the study of the meaningful components of the words will be discussed. How it is going to make some sentence, what will be the components of a one particular word that is going to make a sentence, right? Third is syntax. So syntax is nothing but the study of the structural relationship between the words. So however, in the sentence, how many words will be there and how it is going to just make a relationship between each other. So that is what is the structure of those particular relationship. That will be just written in the form of syntax, and that it is going to interpret in the form of sentence whenever it is going to be just read by the different agents. Fourth is semantics. So semantics is nothing but the study of meaning of the word from the sentence, right? So these four types we have covered. Next is pragmatics. Pragmatics is nothing but that is a study of how the language is used to accomplish the goals. So how the that particular language is going to just communicate the proper meaning out of that. So pragmatic is nothing but that is going to just give the proper structure of the sentence, just that has to be passed to the other person, other user or other applications. So that is a meaning of pragmatics. Discourse is nothing but the study of linguistic units that is larger than a single utterance. So what is that actually? That will be used as a single utterance, but whenever it will be used, it has to be give the more than one word, more than one sentence. So that is going to make a particular sentence out of that with the one two combination of words only. So that is a linguistic units larger than the single utterance. So that today I have discussed about the knowledge, how the knowledge will be interpreted from the different sentences, how the different words and different connecting words is going to make a sense out of that, how the grammar will be just carried forward with the help of we can say noun, pronoun, and these tags and their singular, plural, that segregations will be there. How it is going to just make a root word, and whenever we are just making it a plural, so singular, so that yes and yes we are just attaching to that. How the machine is going to interpret that. And also we have just studied about the different linguistic science, that in the form of phonetics, phonology, what is phonetics, what is phonology, what is discourse, what is pragmatics, what is actually syntax is, how the words will be just making the different syllable structure. Just we had a we can say base introduction of that. So that is all for today's topic. Thank you for watching.
Like, share and subscribe. Hit the bell icon for more updates.